If you had to leave your home in the next 10 minutes because of a wildfire, earthquake, civil unrest, or a grid down event, would you know exactly what to grab? In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a bug out bag that's realistic, it's portable, and designed for suburban emergencies. So let's jump in. Download the Start Preparing Survival Guide to help you prepare for any disaster. I'll post a link in the description and comments section below, or visit cityprepping.com/get started for a free guide to help you get started on your journey of preparedness. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. This video is an updated version of the bug out bag videos that I've done in the past. I've streamlined this bag to make it lighter and specifically designed for my suburban environment. What is a bug out bag? A bug out bag is a bag that's designed to keep you alive for 72 hours so you can move to whatever destination that you need to move to in the event of an emergency. Now, a couple of points about this setup. Bug out bags, they have different considerations based on where you live. I'm in a hot and dry area, so you're going to see the items that we'll pull out in a moment that reflect that reality. If you live somewhere that's maybe extremely cold, then you're going to pack differently. There are also considerations when building these bags for your family, such as your family members and their capabilities to carry gear. You have to consider things like pets. How much should your bag weigh? What is the weight distribution when you pack it? And so much more. I'm not going to cover all those points in this video, but we just finished a detailed course in our City Prepping membership area that covers everything you need to know about building a bug out bag from start to finish, including planning your route, where to go, etc. If you sign up for our newsletter, which I'll link to below, you'll also receive a free downloadable survival guide. That newsletter includes information about courses like this and other offerings that we provide. All right, so let's jump into my bag. This bag is built explicitly for urban, suburban consideration. It fits into my weight parameters and is about 23 pounds dry with no water inside. And I purposefully have chosen a bag that doesn't really stand out as it follows the gray man approach. So my encouragement is during this video, just follow along. And everything I'm going to cover is going to be linked in the description and comments section below. So before we jump into the bag specifically, let me just point out one thing. When you consider the different items that you're going to want to keep next to the bag, you're going to want to think about things like water. I don't keep the water bladders inside of this full with water because, over time it'll go bad. And so I just keep the water to the side, but next to the bag. Also, I keep boots. And then inside the boots, I have socks. And I keep all of the clothes, which we'll cover in a moment, inside the bag. So let's jump into the individual points of a bug out bag. So let's start the discussion with security. Some, they may just want to carry something simple like a small mace. I personally carry a firearm on my person. I have a CCW. I have the 6.365. This is something that I've carried for about the last year or so. It's a firearm that I specifically like. It's a 9mm. It's just compact, and I can actually get 10 in the magazine and 1 in the chamber, so that's my personal carry. Obviously, I carry a cell phone with me every day. I have a flashlight that I carry, a small pocket knife, and also my wallet. Now, these are things that I just happen to have on my person at all times. And so if I had a run out, hopefully I would have these items with me. But if you do keep a firearm next to your gear, make sure that you secure it. All right, now that we have security out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the bag itself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the items here in no specific order. I'm just going to show where they're placed and explain why I put them where I did. All right, so to begin with, I always keep a baseball cap with my gear. As you can see, I'm bald, and so just having that option is a form of cover for me. And again, I don't want to have to deal with sunburns and stuff. Now, on the top of the bag, as you can see here, I've got this right here with these straps secured on here. What this is just a solar panel. 28 watts, it's pretty small, and it's got cables inside. And so in a moment, you'll see a battery bank that I carry in here. Obviously, I can plug this into my cell phone, and this is just a small little solar panel. And again, if I have to, I can actually unroll this. It has clips, and I can hang this on the bag, and I can actually charge items as we go while I'm hiking. Now, the next item, and again, I'm just kind of working outside in. The next item here is just a water bottle. Where I live, we just don't have water. We're in a hot and dry area, so I want to have a few different options to be able to add water if I can find it. And again, water's heavy, so you have to factor that in. You may live in an area where you have a lot of water. I don't. All right. What I'm going to do is here on the top is we've got these pockets. These are the items that I want to be able to get to quickly. Why? Well, I'll show you why. Let's kind of run through one at a time. The first one is a tourniquet. I keep a tourniquet where I can easily access it, because if there is any type of injury, again, I don't have to be digging through my bag to be able to find that. The next item that I have in here is a flashlight. Now, you're going to notice that in this bag, I use Ziploc bags quite a lot. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. One, it allows me to organize things in a way that I can find things. I can look in here and see. I used to have pouches that I would carry everything in, but the problem is it's obviously hard to see into pouches. This, I can easily just see, oh, I've got a flashlight. I've got an extra set of batteries. And by the way, with a flashlight, I would encourage you to keep the batteries stored separately, because if they begin to go bad, you don't want to damage the item. This is also a small light that I keep in my bag, and I can clip this on to my bug out bag. It's just a red strobe light. So if I'm hiking at night, and I don't want to be able to, I want to be able to be seen and be visible, I have that option. All right, I think that's everything in this top compartment. Now there's a second compartment here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull the items out here. The first one is the battery bank. And again, you can see I keep this in a Ziploc bag. I mentioned this a second ago. I can actually tie this in and connect it to the solar panel that I showed a second ago and charge my cell phone. The next is some cash. My encouragement is keep small denominations, whether that's 20, 10s, 5s, 1s, because if you're in a situation where maybe, cash registers are down, electronics, credit cards are offline, you're going to want to be able to have cash to buy whatever. How much you carry, that's up to you. I think I have usually a couple of $100 in each bag. The next item in here is a multi-tool. This is an old Leatherman that I got 20 some odd years ago. The reason I like this one is it also has different bits that I can add on to the screwdriver in here. And so, again, this bag is specifically kind of for an urban suburban environment. And so just the ability to build, manipulate or to deal with whatever comes along that I've got to be able to open or unscrew, I have these options in here. And so again, this is a Leatherman Wave, and I've had that one, gosh, I want to say about 25 years now. All right, a few other items in the top bag here, top pocket, rather. I'm just going to pull all these out. The next one is a respirator. Where I live, we've got a lot of wildfires in our area. It's pretty common out here, so having an N95 respirator for me is a high priority. The next is a small poncho. I'm fortunately, maybe not fortunately, but I'm fortunately in an area where we just don't have much rain. But if I do get rained on, I want to be able to have that. Again, a poncho, the advantage is it's able to cover, myself, my, full everything, the bag as well. And so this is just a small option. The next item up is a whistle. Now, when it comes to security or rather communication or both, a whistle comes in handy. And again, when we look at the different categories, and I'm not going to go through them one by one, when I list them in the description section, I'll list everything by categories, but this one definitely is a communication option or security, depending on your situation. So I think that's everything in the top pocket. So let's go ahead and open up the main compartment. Now, as you'll see here, I'm going to kind of pull from kind of the top, and there's not necessarily a lot of reasoning behind what I put where I did. I did put things from a weight distribution place as far as heavy items up against my back, but otherwise most of the gear in here is pretty spread out, but we'll run through this really quickly. Okay, so when I open this up, this is a little different than I've done in the past. In the past, I would keep all my clothing off to the side. This time around, I leaned the bag down a lot, so I was able to get all my clothing in here. The advantage is if I have to run out the door, I'm not scrambling to find pants, shirts. A lot of times, I would keep these items next to my bag separately, but again, because I was able to lean this bag down, I can put everything in here. The first item for me is a knee brace. I've just got a injured knee on my left knee, so I always keep that in there. Makes hiking not a problem as long as I have a knee brace. Now, this next one is just kind of an outer shell, kind of like a windbreaker / rain jacket. I know we put a poncho in here, and these are kind of, can double over. But again, as you can see here, I put everything in these Ziploc bags because if this bag gets wet or it gets rained on, I don't want all my clothing and everything else obviously to get messed up. The next item in here is a pair of pants. And these pants are actually the kind that you can zip off the leg, so they become short. So it kind of gives you an option for both winter or summer. And they're, backpacking, kind of hiking type of pants, so light material, breathable. Also, what I've put in here is, again, because where I live, the biggest issue is sun. And again, it does get hot and dry, or it's rather hot and dry where I'm at, but I've got a sun shirt in here. It's a long sleeve. And so that's one of the things you'll notice in this bag. I don't carry sun protective, like, sunscreen, because a lot of the gear that I have in here, it deals with that. Also, for example, this is like an SPF neck gaiter, and I can put this around my neck, and I can pull it up over my face. So again, it protects me from the sun. I just don't want to deal with a bunch of sunscreen stuff like this. It's light enough and keeps the sun off me. I've worn this type of material even in the summer, and it's breathable. So again, just works for my environment. Next item up in here is, let's see, what do we got? Oh, these are thermals. This is both for tops and bottom. And again, I've just compacted these nice and neatly into this bag. Right now I'm filming this at the beginning of November. And so we're in the fall, and we'll be, coming into the winter not too far out. And so you'll notice, again, a lot of this gear that I have in here right now, the clothing, is specific for cold weather gear. In the summertime, I'll probably take some of this gear out because I just don't need it or the weight. The other option is, even if you have cold weather gear in the summer and you head out, if you have to dump stuff, you have that option. So again, it's up to you. One of the things I always encourage people and want to remind you, these bags, they're dynamic. You need to go in and check them. And we talk about this in our course, but you need to check them periodically. Check the batteries, check the food, check the clothing. It's these kind of things you want to stay on top of, at least at a bare minimum every 6 months. The next items that I have in here are a pair of socks, and I've got a beanie. Again, I don't have much on in the way of keeping my head warm, so a beanie in the wintertime and a good clean pair of socks. Now, you'll notice in my boots, I already have a pair of socks stuffed in that are next to the bag, but as a lot of people have reminded me over the years on these bug out bag videos, have an extra pair of socks. A lot of ex-military have made those comments. Okay, next item up that I have in here is, what is this? Oh yeah, it's my jacket. It's a light jacket. This one, it folds down nice and neat, and that's one of the reasons I like it. This is a bag, actually, I reviewed on my channel maybe 6-7 years ago by Outdoor Vitals. I still love this jacket. It compacts really small. It's got a hoodie that pulls over. It's just a light kind of polymer material. And again, I just like compact, lightweight, and keeps me warm. So as you can see, we've covered up to this point. Let me cover one other kind of more or less clothing item. A pair of gloves. These are mechanics, gloves. Again, you got to think about if you're in an urban, suburban environment, you may come across different issues where a good pair of gloves will come in handy. Again, based on the environment that you're in, change that. But I didn't put, as you notice, any warm weather gloves. These will suffice. I would prefer, if it gets too cold, they'll, in a pinch, they'll work. Okay, so up to this point, we've covered a lot of clothing items. And you're going to notice, if I turn this here, my bag at this point is probably down about 40%. So as you can see, we have a lot of space. Now, the beauty of this is that now, once I start putting the clothing on, it's smaller, I've got space, and now I can actually start adding things such as water. And again, I've got a bladder in here, which I'll show in just a second. But before I jump into that, how about this? Let me go into this next pocket. You'll see this, part that kind of folds back here. I've got this pouch, and let's go ahead and open this up. What we have in here is my water items. Let me go through these one at a time. I'm just going to go ahead and pull everything out here. Again, you'll notice I keep everything organized in my Ziploc bags. What's in here? Well, I've got a number of things. And let me just put this up in front of the camera here where you can see this. I've got Zip Fizz. Zip Fizz are energy drinks. You'll notice I don't have coffee in here. And again, what I've tried to do with my bags is reduce the need to be able to heat water, cook, anything like that. And we'll talk about that more in just a second when we get into food. But I've got these Zip Fizz. They're just energy drinks. I've got some different water purification tablets. This is good if you're coming across any water source where you are concerned there may be viruses. On the other side, I'm just going to go ahead and open this and make this a little easier instead of trying to flip it around from the camera. I've also got a Silcock key. Now, if you live in a city, urban, suburban environment, you'll notice on the side of most commercial buildings, you'll have a little water spigot, but you'll notice there's no handle to turn it on. These are what you can use to be able to actually open those water valves. So again, specific to urban, suburban environment. A second ago, I mentioned I've got the Zip Fizz. Also, I've got hydration. These are, I think, liquid IV, and these are electrolytes. As I mentioned, I'm in a hot and dry area, so I'll be probably sweating a lot, especially in summer, so I want to be able to make sure I can restore my electrolytes. If you've ever had your electrolytes go out in the middle of an intense activity, it's no fun. I did a marathon years ago and had it go out at about mile 17 and almost locked my legs up and fell over. So yeah, think about those things, especially if you're having to move a lot with a lot of gear. Now, as far as water purification, in the past, my recommendation was Sawyer, the Sawyer brand, mini Sawyer water filters. Had a company that sponsored me on the channel several months ago, and what they did was they took and they crossed over, or rather combined, both a water straw, those are the ones that you typically see at, your Costco, your big box stores, where you just, put this into the water and suck through. And then again, I talk about a lot of times on the channel, the Sawyer Minis, because I just love those. You can, actually, pull water through and filter them. And what they did though with this option is they combined both. So you can actually take this and you can, stick it in a water source, and on this end you can pull through. So it works on that note. But you can also, and it has threading in here, you can screw a traditional like water bottle on here and actually turn this upside down and it will drip out. And so this is for plunging the water out when you're done, to actually backflow, or rather push the water out to clean it out, the filter. So anyway, that's my particular water setup that I have. All right, so let me jump in, and I'm not going to go into each item in this medical kit. I'll break it down in the description section below. But as you can see, I've got a small med kit, and it's got the important items, at least important to me. Now, remember a second ago we talked about our tourniquet. This is actually on the top of the bag where it's easily accessible. Inside of here, I've got a few similar options that, again, deal with trauma. I just can't emphasize that enough, because if you're in an emergency situation, there's not going to be first responders, paramedics. You are your own first responder. So having these items, that's one of my biggest fears, is some type of major laceration or some type of bleed out. And I just want options. This is Quick Clot. These are used a lot by the military. They found a lot of trauma, combat situations. These were able to stop water or bleeding out very quickly. Now in this bag, I've got a lot of your typical miscellaneous, your antiseptics, your bandages. Actually, I said earlier I did not put sunscreen. I remember in this one I did carry it for our kids. But again, it's a weight item, right? I could take that off. My bag is, like I said, roughly about 23 pounds. So if you find it, things that you want to say, hey, too much of one item, or rather duplicate, take it out. Again, I've got different pain meds. I've got the different things that you would want to consider. And the last that I want to talk about is an Israeli bandage. And these are kind of like a tourniquet to a degree. And you may say, well, why do you have so many of these options? Again, I don't expect my kids to carry these items in their bag. It's just I want to make sure I have multiple options. All right, so that's the medical aspect, medical kit that I've got in here. Let me just move these items out of the way. Hopefully you're able to keep up with me so far. And again, if at any time you're like, hey, I can't write this all down, remember, I put everything down below. All right, now when we talked about earlier the weight distribution, and I'll talk about this in a second, I've got the water bladder on the back, and food from my setup is one of the heavier items. Look, when it comes to food, we're not talking about the best option, right? We're not talking about, really, nutrient dense and the healthiest options out there. We're talking about survival. We're talking about moving fast. When it comes to food, I don't want to deal with cooking, cleaning, any type of, anything with that, because now I've got to add fuel. I've got to add different cooking options. I've got to add, it just keeps adding on, right? So what I've done is I've gone with simple options. It's not going to be probably, again, the most nutritious or the fun to eat, but I've gone with these ration survival bars. This is the SOS rations. These things, this whole block right here has 3,600 calories. The average American consumes it's recommended for the average American about 2,200 calories a day. Probably most people eat more than that, but these are 3,600 calories each. They're a bit heavy, but if you're going to be moving a lot, these are really designed for energy. Again, a lot of carbs in these. And then we lastly have a few of these different types of bars. They're more or less the same thing, but they're just bars. I think they're called Millennium bars. Did I put that upside down? There you go. So very similar type of food. I've eaten them before. Pretty good. There's been a few times where I was in the mood to snack and I actually enjoyed them. All right, so I'm going to try to flip this up and show you here. This is what we have left. Now, I've got a knife, a fixed blade knife. We talked about earlier, multi-tool. I kind of was on the fence about which fixed blade knife I wanted to show. I've got several different options that I've collected over the years. I know a lot of people like the K-bar knives. There's so many options on the market. Survival Lily sent me one of her knives a few years ago. I love it. It's usually what I keep in here, but I'm trying to minimize the weight. So I always mispronounce that. Morkaniv. I think it's a Swedish company. These things used to be like 12 bucks on Amazon. I don't know how much they are now. But again, this is not something I'm going to be using for a lot of heavy processing or anything like that. I believe it's a rat tail on the handle, so probably not the best for any heavy duty. But you might, if you're going to add any weight, you might want to go with a heavier, more substantial type of fixed blade knife. All right, so let's look at the next category, which again, as you can see, I keep things in these bags. This is sanitation. In here, I've got wipes, I've got toilet paper, I've got some sanitation, kind of like, sanitizer wipes in here. I've got floss. I've got lip balm. I don't know how many times I've been outside and my lips go dry, and that's just irritating. Chapstick. I've got a toothbrush. I've got some of these basically like little soap strips. You put these on your hand, wet it, and you can, wash your hands. And I know there's something else in here that I'm not seeing. Toothpaste. I've got that right there on the other side. So this is kind of my sanitation, hygiene. It's sometimes those things that are overlooked that bring us the most comfort. And so being able to brush your teeth, that's a morale booster. All right, next item up, kind of in the category of what I would consider cover, is a bandana and a trash bag. A trash bag can serve a lot of purposes. And again, these are just options that, bandanas, they can serve as a splint, they can serve as a head cover, bleeding, whatever it is. Just kind of a multi-function option there. All right, next one up, and this is typically what you would define as your cordage whenever, and again, by the way, if you've never seen the 10 C's of survival, it's kind of a commonly used term in our community. I did a video on it years ago, and that's why I'm saying one of the C's. Again, this is kind of in the category of cordage. We've got some duct tape, we've got zip ties, and we've got paracord. I believe this is either 50 or 100 feet, and so this is 550 paracord. Again, this is a really popular type of rope in our community. It's light, but it's very durable, and it can do a lot of functions. Which kind of leads me into the next point. Let me just hop over to this one. When we talk about our cover, or rather, our shelter, this is just a sport utility blanket is what it's called, but it serves a lot of purposes. As you can see on the picture on the front of it, this particular individual is using it for shelter. And so combined with our paracord, we can, set this up and secure it. I was debating, I've got rain flies that I've used, backpacking rain flies. They're pretty lightweight. But the reason I prefer this over a rain fly is because, again, it can serve other purposes as well. It's not just limited to the rain fly, but, there's a lot of explanations on the back of different things that it can do. So if there's a tool that can serve multi-purposes and it's actually a quality item, I like that. All right. When we also talk about shelter, I think one of the other things that comes up in the past that I've often done is I've usually had a full sleeping bag in my backpack. But again, I'm just trying to go leaner as time goes by. I just don't want to carry a bunch of gear. I want mobility, and I want to be able to move fast. So this is a sleep bivvy. Are you going to be comfortable? Probably not in cold weather, but are you going to live? Yeah, that's the goal. You may not get the best night of sleep with that, but again, it's better than nothing. And again, when we talk about, trade-offs with weight, for me, that's an important one. All right, let me cover this one. This is just a basic notepad with pen. You may need to take notes. You may need to leave notes. And I believe this is a Ride in the Rain. Yeah, it's a Ride in the Rain notepad that's, can handle getting wet. And again, for whatever purpose may come up, you may have to leave a notes for somebody if you're going somewhere or, whatever. Next up is, if we talk about the C's, as we talked about earlier, communication. This is a ham radio. I've done a whole video on getting your ham radio license. As you probably know, in an emergency, you don't have to have a license to transmit on one of these devices, but it's important that you understand how to use them. That's the thing I always encourage people to understand. I know in this community, a lot of people will point out, well, I don't need a license. But again, you got to practice. So Also, one of the things I like about it is you can actually get NOAA weather on that, so you can keep up to date, and it has some different frequencies that you can pick up. Well, a lot of frequencies that you can pick up. So I'm not going to go into detail on that, but again, if you want to check out my video, go to my library and look for the ham radio license. I cover that in quite a lot of detail. All right, next up is our map and compass. And one other thing in here, but let me point these two items out first. Now, when it comes to a map, don't get a whole state map. I mean, you're not going to be traversing in 72 hours your whole state, unless you live in a really small state. I do not. So I've got a map specific to my city. Now, you may say, well, hey, I've got GPS on my phone. I mean, yeah, but what if it gets damaged? What if, for whatever reason, you're not able to get a signal? What if you run out of battery? I mean, a lot of what ifs, right? So this is a small piece of paper. Depending on the disaster, it may be difficult to see, specific signs, or things may change. So having that along with a compass will allow you to navigate your area. And again, we did a whole video about using a map and compass on the channel before, so I encourage you to check that out in the library. All right, next up is some type of fire starting kit. What do I have in here? A lot of it is, just redundancy. Let me just pull these out one at a time. I've got a lighter, and this is in a small case. I've shown this before, but it just prevents it from being lit. And as you can see on the very top, I've got duct tape wrapped around. Did I show tape earlier? Yeah, I believe I did in one of these bags. Oh yeah, got duct tape here, but this is something that I've wrapped around. I can pull this off if I need extra tape. I've got our typical, your fire starter here. Again, even if this is wet, these will still work. And we've got some wet fire. This is actually just a kind of a material that you can put down and actually, start it, and it'll take off. And it's an accelerant. And so I carry a small piece of tin foil. So if I have to put this on here along with some kindling, spark it, start it, I've got to fire very quickly. All right. Now, I just showed a second ago this bag. I opened it up. I had my map and compass. I've got pictures of all my family members in here if we get split up. We all have this in here. We have phone numbers. We have a phone number outside of the area. I believe my parents' phone number, so that if we are, lost and we're separated, we can call that number. My family can act essentially as an operator that we can all call into if for whatever reason the phone doesn't work in our immediate area. I've got, destinations, where to go. A lot of critical information in here. So this is in all of our family's bug out bags. Again, so we've talked about that a lot on the channel before, so have a plan for that. Lastly, let me flip this up without knocking a bunch of stuff off here. But I've got this water bladder, and again, this is, just has a basic, hose here where I can pull it out and actually drink as I hike. So this I can fill up, and as we talked about at the beginning of the video, I keep the water next to the bag. And I believe that's it. It's a pretty light setup. Like I said, 23 pounds dry, but change it based on your specific environment and your considerations. If you say, well, I don't really know all the factors, there's a lot that goes into packing it specifically for your setup. Again, I'll put a link below to our membership area where we have an exhaustive course that's part of the membership area, along with a lot of other courses where we go into details on these type of things. We have a community. If you have questions, people are very active in our community and they'll help you out. If you have any thoughts or feedback or questions, feel free to let me know. And again, feel free to post those below. As always, stay safe out there.